Thank you all for joining us for the Successfully Launch Your Graduate Career Tips for First-Year Students workshop. Joining us today is Dr. Sarah Jordan, who is the Program Director of the Couple and Family Therapy Program here at UNLV, and Jessica Soria, who is a current graduate student. They will be answering your questions and discussing helpful tips to succeed in graduate school. So I'm just going to hand it over to Dr. Jordan to introduce herself, and then we can begin taking questions.
Hi, I had to unmute myself. Nice to meet you all. I'm Sarah Jordan. I am the Director for Couple and Family Therapy here at UNLV. I've been here 2 years. I love UNLV. I was at 10 years, I was at Texas Tech University in their Couple and Family Therapy program. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Soria. I go by Jess, so just refer to me as Jess. I am a super senior PhD student. I'm starting my 5th year in my program. I did have to start over when I transferred credits. So I'm hoping to share with y'all more of a student perspective of being a graduate student, not just at UNLV, but I've been a graduate student on the East Coast, a graduate student on the West Coast, in Texas and Florida, throughout the U.S. I've had different circumstances that caused me to transfer, but I'm so happy at UNLV. And yeah, here to give the student perspective. By no means am I an expert or anything, just a veteran, a long veteran.
Thank you, Jess. So while everyone is thinking about what questions you have for you, let's just jump in and talk about if you have some strategies to help structure and manage our workload as students.
Yeah, I was just going to ask quickly if we could have the participants just say what their major is and where their first years, but what they're studying. That would be helpful to me, so I kind of know what our audience is like, where they're coming from.
Let's go down the list here. Akame?
Hi there. I'm studying occupational therapy in the doctoral program at UNLV.
Okay. Thank you. Jamie?
Hi, everyone. I am a first-year grad student with the school psychology program.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Kristen?
Hi, I'm a biology student studying ecology and evolution, and I'm a first-year master's student.
Awesome. Monica?
Hi, I'm a first-year Master of Science student for Applied Economics and Data Intelligence.
Thank you. Paula?
Everyone, I'm studying criminal justice.
Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
Everyone, I'm studying criminal justice.
Thank you. I think that's all our graduate students. Oh, did Samantha just join us? Samantha, if you want to let us know what program you're in.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe we can ask her in the chat too. Maybe she's having trouble hearing.
It's like the connection's a little.
Oh, social work. There we go. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, if you end up cutting out, the chat is great. So. Oh, it looks, Samantha, just to let you know, it looks like you're trying to speak, but we can't hear you. So if you want to put something in the chat, that's great. There might be something wrong with your microphone. Just to let you know.
It's inevitable with the times we live in, right? We all experience it, usually at the worst time, where when we need the camera or the microphone. we're all in the same boat. All right, so thank you all for introducing yourselves. So we'll start and dive into some questions. So the first one is, what are some strategies to help structure and manage our workload as graduate students?
I don't know if we could take turns going first or whatever you want to, it's easier. But first of all, thank you all for being here. I cannot imagine starting graduate school during a virtual introduction this semester. So I think that's amazing because you're going to learn different skills than other students have learned starting out. So thank you for being here. I think it's very important that you're here, and more than ever, I think it's important for us to those that are wanting to pursue higher education and graduate work. This is a great time to do it. Although some disadvantages, there's a lot of advantages: parking, commuting. I have to think about that too. Like working from home, it's like, gosh, I save an hour every day. Like, wow. So in terms of, I have the items written down here. In terms of like strategies to manage things, I mean, you've got an advantage already. I mean, you could say probably shave at least 45 minutes off your day by not having to park and walk and commute and go back and forth. So I would take advantage of that if you can. So, and in terms of structuring your workload, everybody's different. Everyone has different discipline. That's why I was curious about those, but also about how you have been successful as a previous student, as an undergrad or as a master's student if you're getting your PhD. So I want you to just take a minute, and I want to be as interactive as we can. I want you to think about your past experiences as a student and think about what has been useful or helpful in the past. So perhaps it's been study groups, perhaps it's been, I just bought I'm on my second notebook here. I've got 2 planners now because one just wasn't quite right. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're extremely organized or everything is digitally organized. But think in the past, when you've been at that, like the end of the semester crunch time or other times during your career as a student, what was helpful? So just think about that for a moment. And then if you'd like to share either in the chat or orally, if you can, that would be great. Because sometimes we have successes that others maybe they haven't tried yet, or
I would have to say for myself, it's definitely being organized.
Okay.
And it's taken me 3 weeks to get the important dates into my calendar because I was playing catch up for 2 weeks, it feels like. And yeah, there's a whole sense of relief seeing all of that on paper at a glance. For me, it has to be at a glance. A question that I would have maybe later on is how to handle all of the reading. The reading seems to take so much time, and I'm starting to think that maybe I'm not reading properly, which I don't think is the case, but I'm not sure how to handle all the reading.
That's a great question, because that's a real shift from undergrad to graduate work, is the amount of reading. And I would assume, I know it's true in our discipline, I'm looking at your disciplines as well. That is a huge shift, yes. So I wrote that down. We will talk about that.
Jamie, I would just want to say, I commend you for getting it done. It's a lot of work up front. Every semester, this is going to be the case. So don't feel like you haven't gotten your footing when the spring comes around. Every semester, you have a new schedule, new courses that demand different amount of time out of you. So yes, maybe it takes 2-3 weeks at the beginning of every semester to get your footing, get everything in your calendar. Kind of piggybacking off of what Dr. Jordan mentioned, whether you prefer it digitally or whether you're old school like me. I like my books in printed paper and I like my calendar in printed paper, right? And then ask yourself, I would piggyback and add on to Dr. Jordan's question, ask yourself, do I like my courses segmented, right? Like I need a calendar for this course, I need a calendar for this course, or do I like everything grouped at one and then have it color coordinated? For some students, that might make us feel overwhelmed. Like our calendar starts at 7 a.m. and it doesn't end till 11 p.m. realistically, right? But maybe you schedule in your reading time. These are all the questions that it's more so you should be considering for yourself rather than Dr. Jordan or myself tell you this is the number one strategy. This is the only way to make it to the finish line. But rather implementing these things in your own style, right? And whatever works for you. But a round of applause for Jamie. You like honestly are starting off with the right foot. And yes, it was a lot of work up front, but the rest of your semester, you're setting yourself up for success just with that.
I really like that from Jess about every semester you're going to have that week or two where you have to plan things out and really sort of, especially if you're an organized, you know, like things visually organized. Yes, every semester I do it too. And to try new things. I have clipboards on my wall that worked for a while. And then I was like, but I need something different. Somebody shared this with me. That's why I've got these new notebooks, but they have digital notebooks now. There's different brands, but Rocketbook is one of them. And because I like things written down, but I don't want any paper. So I'm like, what do I do? So it has a code on it. So you actually has a calendar and everything on here by the month. This one has it by the month. So I got this one so I can write down big events for the month. Then I have by the week, by the day, and I'm trying it out. So
We're losing you a bit, Sarah. Dr.
did I cut out?
Yes.
Yeah, a little for like maybe 40 seconds.
We got
Okay.
you back.
Well, I was just writing things down, your schedule, as well as, did I cut out again? Okay, let me, just a second.
I will take this time to share what worked for me for a good amount of my first 2 years in my PhD program at UNLV was the Passion Planner, especially just because at the beginning, I needed to remember, like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because life was happening. I had to be very adaptable and flexible. In my first year in my PhD program, my father passed away. My second year, I was planning my wedding, again, with the thought of like, my father's not here. My third year, I decided to take a position overseas, and I had to petition for my courses for them to allow me to be virtual. So I was working in Spain for a year. And my fourth year, I just had a baby, right? So I have changed in what I like in my life and my schedule. So the Passion Planner, I needed it up front to kind of keep my like engines going. Now, realistically, like I like my Google Calendar, right? But I'll print out things and like highlight it. I don't need to sit down and like reflect and like, well, why am I doing this, right? Like I have my 9-month-old running around to remind me why I need to make it to the finish line. Right. So Passion Planner, little plug, it served me well for 2 years, got me there. And it's line by line. I don't know if Passion Planner now has that QR code. Have you ever used it, Dr. Jordan?
Can you still hear me? This is, I'm trying this one out. It's Panda. So it's the Panda Planner, which I had never heard of before. And they merged with the Rocketbook. So you can actually have the benefits of all the details. And I don't know if it's like Passion Planner, but it has like what motivates me today. Here's a blank page. So you can put your personal stuff in there. What's your focus, my to-do, that sort of thing. And then by the week, I'm trying to see if I can get my phone to connect to boost my signal. But one thing I have found in terms of organization is to have a weekly, a monthly, and then a daily. Because if you look at that, like your to-do list, it's never going to end. And that can get really overwhelming. It doesn't like you look at it like, oh my God. And then you feel awful and then you don't want to do anything, right? But if you break it down, so I have that hidden somewhere, okay? And then I break it down to the week. This week, this is what I have to do. And then today, out of those things, I'm going to just pick these things for today. For me, that's been very helpful. So I know I have these 4 things that I have to do today by 5 o'clock, no matter how long it takes me. And to break it down by day is really helpful. So it could be the readings, like Jamie said, like, how do I get the readings done? You could say, if I've got 200 pages in this one class to read, I'm going to read I'm going to put that on my today list. I'm going to read page 1 to 20 in this. I'm going to read page this to this in this book. If you break it down day by day, it's not so overwhelming. And does anybody have kids at home in school? So you need another calendar for that probably. But that's another component that we haven't talked about. Like Jess was talking about having a nine-month-old, but having to organize their schedule and your schedule as a graduate student. Again, I think the more organized you can be and say, okay, who's the days that I have to keep track of my 6-year-old schedule. I have my schedule and his. I have a whiteboard that has the little orange triangles from Rocketbook, and I could scan it so I could look at it on my phone while I'm in a meeting. When does he have art? Oh my gosh, I can't remember because I can't put it on mine because it's too full. So whatever works, and try different things and realize that every semester it's going to take that time to get yourself settled. And if you try one approach, throw it out, do something else.
If we think about the way that goal coaches suggest that we set up a goal, it's the same way, right? We have one overarching large goal, and then it's broken up into smaller steps, right? Getting through the semester is a goal as well, right? And each class, it's a goal to complete the course, right? And we're setting ourselves up for success when we break it into weeks and days. And the Passion Planner even breaks it down into hours each day, right? I know Dr. Jordan mentioned by 5 p.m. I want to have finished these things. Well, in the Passion Planner or on Google Calendar, you could say, I am giving myself 2 hours, right? Maybe you don't do well under the pressure of I'm going to read 20 pages, but I'm going to read for 2 hours. And grant yourself that grace and compassion that, hey, I'm new at this, right? I may not get through 20 pages today, but then tomorrow I might get through 40 in the same amount of time. So again, asking yourself, you know you better than I know you or than Dr. Jordan knows yourself, right? So asking yourself, do I do better if I set a goal of pages? I can answer for myself. I would do better if I set a goal of this is my time allotted, right? Because each page is not created equally. Some pages are more complicated to digest than others, right? But yeah.
The other thing that I would add in terms of reading, Jamie's question, and organization is think about what is your time of day to learn, take in information, and or write. Okay, so when I was a graduate student, somebody gave me this advice. They said, think about what time, are you a morning, afternoon, or evening writer? And I thought, I'm a morning writer. I do better in the morning. So for a while, what I was actually doing is I changed it up because it wasn't, I had to delete it all the time, but I had a writing hour every day at 7 a.m. And that was my writing on the calendar every day. Now I've had to juggle that a bit because of my schedule, but it was helpful to me to say this is my designated time, and you could do that for reading, for writing, anything else, activity for some of these planners, they want you to sort of plan out your day. So perhaps you start, whatever time you start your day, you give yourself an extra 5 minutes and you just sit down and write, what's the plan for today? I do that at the end of the day. I go through my whole page for the day and say, okay, what did I not accomplish? That wasn't a must have, that it was I have a have to, and then a maybe, or transfer it to the next day. So I do that transfer at night. So when I wake up, I have my to do all ready to go. But finding the time of day that works best can be really helpful, because as a grad student, I was commuting an hour to grad school. I was in Virginia. I get home and I was exhausted, and I was like, this isn't working. I can't keep my eyes open. So I had to rearrange my schedule so that I could actually get up early and do those things in the morning.
Thank you. So we talked a little bit about writing out our goals and scheduling time for tasks, but how do we set, what's the greatest priority? How do we determine that and then stick to our prioritizing schedule?
For me, and it's maybe different for you all, but for me, it's deadlines. What is the next deadline? Do I have a deadline in a day or two? Maybe I have a deadline Friday, but it's going to take me days to do it. Then I need to work on it every day until Friday. I don't want to wait till Thursday and realize, oh my God, like I'm not going to get this done. So part of that comes into play. When I'm thinking about, like, I've got my list. So for my month here, and I write down when the deadlines are in the column, and then I can look at it every day or two and say, I've got like 5 letters due on the 1st of October, and the change of the month always throws me off. So, one day it's September, one day it's October. Oh my gosh, all this stuff's due in October. So I have to really look at both months at a time, but I'll say, okay, now I have like 5 letters due October 1. I'm going to make sure that week of the 29th that I put them on Monday, that I get those done. I like to get things done a week ahead of time if I can. When I was in grade school, I had a teacher, an English teacher, and she got migraine headaches. And I got migraine headaches. And she told us a little secret. She says, when you have migraines and you never know when you're going to get one, she says, I always did everything an extra day ahead of time. And I never forgot that. And because I also struggle with migraines, rarely, I don't want to say I'm perfect by any means, but I rarely try to wait till the day before, because I just learned that from her. I was like, well, that's great, because I don't know. And if I get a migraine, I'm worthless. I can't do anything. And so that really helped me sort of plan, like give myself that extra day. So in terms of prioritizing, you could, however you want to organize, lay it all out, have a list, whatever, and think about if it's a big task, I probably need to break it down. I need to break it down into little chunks, whether that's by time, like Jess said, or by, I need to get this section done this day. That's my goal. Again, and I'm a therapist and we work with goals too. If it's written down, it needs to be behavioral, specific, concrete. Okay. So the more detailed you are, the more likely you are to accomplish that goal, whatever the detail is. So if it's 30 minutes of reading, set your timer for 30 minutes. So that way you can really stay on task. If it's 30 pages, make sure that, however you want to organize that. But that's sort of what I do to kind of lay things out so that I don't miss a deadline, or I'm not, just cramming the night before, which I know grad students often have to do. So, and sometimes it's unavoidable. I get that too. Like there's some nights during the week I have to work till 7 or 8. That's just my job. But I try to prevent that by planning ahead. And sometimes I'm successful and other times I have to play catch up. So.
Yeah, I would agree with Dr. Jordan. So there's various things that it's ultimately up to you to decide, right? Do I prefer to schedule my reading by pages or by minutes? Do I prefer a digital planner or do I prefer a paper planner, right? One thing that you really don't have an option about is when it comes to what task am I going to complete first? Your deadlines do that for you, right? Your syllabus is going to dictate that, right? So do I feel like working on X project and I don't feel like working on Y? Well, guess what? Y is due before, right? So there you don't really have an option. Your deadlines and your due dates are going to dictate that for sure. But the nice thing is that you do get to dictate how that is then tackled.
I think the other thing to add with that is, what do you do with the tasks that don't have a specific deadline? Okay, like maybe the deadline is at the end of the semester. Maybe it's like filling out a form and there's a long-term deadline, but not like the next week or so. So what I do is I have a list of those things too. And I integrate those into my daily tasks so that it just like, those things where like, it just never gets done. I'm sure you have that on your to-do list. Like it's been on there for 6 months. I just never, and it'll take 5 minutes. I just never do it. And so that I try to sprinkle those in with the things that have the hard deadlines so that I don't have these items on my long to-do list that never go away. That could be, and then you get discouraged, like, oh my gosh, it's like takes me 5 minutes. It's been on my list for 6 months. I just need to do it. Or when it comes to ourselves, so I'm a therapist, so I speak from being a therapist. We neglect ourselves, right? I need to go to the dentist. I need to make a doctor's appointment. I need to call my prescription. I need to do those things. That should also be integrated into your list because that makes up who you are as a person. And I think as a grad student, sometimes those things get neglected. And I think it's important, especially during this time with COVID, that we be aware that our health and well-being is just as much of a priority as anything else. It may have a different deadline or due date, but
yeah, I'll lightheartedly share. I tell my husband all the time, if it's not on my calendar, it's not getting done. Like, it's not on the calendar, because I have learned that that is what gives me like peace, and what allows me to feel like I'm not just treading water, I'm like walking on water, right? Like, that is what grants me peace and allows me to like get through my days, right? Because it's not on it, like I'm not carrying it on my shoulders or in my mind. My passion planner is carrying it. Google Calendar is carrying it, right? But yeah, scheduling, yeah, even that self-care.
Thank you. Speaking of that, what are some work-life balance tips that have helped you or are helping you successfully navigate throughout your program?
So I think work-life balance can be different as a grad student than as a faculty member. I think it's still important. I think our deadlines and our timelines are different. But I think they also, we can get unbalanced very easily. This work-life balance, there's a lot of research out there. Research shows that women tend to carry more of the household duties and those types of things, even if they are in a relationship or a living situation where there are male and female people living in the home. So I think some of that comes, as a female, comes from us feeling the burden to do more and guilt because we can't accomplish that. I think you have to be very realistic about your work-life balance. I think that if you live alone, you divvy out and you do what you can. If you live with other people, you have to sit down and talk about, what can I do? What can you do? When do we have to make changes? When am I at the hard part of my semester when I need more help doing things like taking out the trash and cleaning the bathroom that I can normally do throughout the semester? So I think when it comes to work-life balance as a student, you're on a semester system that really fluctuates over those 4 months. And I think evaluating that, you might have more time for yoga the first 2 months, and then you get to the end of the semester and you're drowning and you can't do it. So anything that you can do to sort of spread things out. So if your load is a little lighter in the beginning of the semester, do some of those other things that allows you to have more time or work ahead. So when you get to the end, you're not like neglecting your self-care towards the end of the semester. Again, planning ahead, doing things little bits at a time versus waiting and doing everything at once. And realizing it's hard and you're not perfect. And I'm sure you're doing the best that you can. You hear all these sayings, and sometimes people are like, oh, I've heard that. Like, that really frustrates me. But to know when your tank is empty, number one, I think knowing when, oh, I need a break. Whatever that is, I need to step away. I need to take this call outside instead of inside. It's those little things. I think sometimes we think, oh, we need a week off or, a long dream vacation. No, we probably need 10 minutes of something different, or we need, I supervise therapists, and I tell you right now, the last 6 months, that's all we've talked about is self-care, them feeling burnout, overwhelmed, which compares to graduate students. And we talk about little things, making those 10 minutes. I have one person that I supervise, and she says, I've noticed that every 6 weeks I need a day off or I'm just about to lose it. And so I'll ask her, how long has it been since you've had your day off? And like a scheduled vacation day. And she'll say, oh, I'm overdue. I say, you've got to do that. So those are things you put in your planner too. Those are just as important for work-life balance. And you find if you do those things and take time for yourself, that you have more energy to do your other things that are due.
Yeah, I think it was like the perfect transition, because we kind of started to already talk about like scheduling and that self-care. So that question came like at such a perfect timing. But this is honestly, y'all, the research that I do, what I'm writing my dissertation on, women in leadership roles and women in higher education. And what Dr. Jordan mentioned is a real thing. It's called second shift, right? As women, we have this second shift. Then after we clocked out from our work, and even after we're done with our schoolwork for the day, right? We get home or we just walk out of our home office, and yeah, we have this laundry list, literally, of to-dos, and it doesn't get done with like a magic wand, right? It's just as exhausting. But also in my field, we're have transitioned from using work-life balance because it sets this this idea that everything will be perfectly balanced at all times. But Dr. Jordan even mentioned, right? Like maybe at the beginning of the semester, it's more balanced, and in the middle during midterms or in finals, maybe we're not perfectly balanced, right? So we use less work-life balance and more work-life or just life juggling, right? You're juggling things at all times. It's not perfectly balanced, but I feel like I've said this before, and I may say it 3 more times before the end of the workshop, right? But granting yourself grace, right? It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. Life continues to happen, and life does bleed into and affect your academic life, right? So the same way that you schedule in your reading time, if you aren't caring for yourself, you may want to consider scheduling in that hour every other day or 3 hours on Sunday where it's you time. You go to Target alone, you binge watch Netflix, whatever makes you like de-stress and relax and disconnect. So not for funsies, I'm going to read this one chapter because it's my favorite class. That does not count, right? It's completely disengaging and turning off all of your academic life and brain, right? Stepping away only makes you stronger. You're on mute, Dr. Jordan.
Thank you. There's probably background noise. Speaking of kids, so my husband is a stay-at-home dad. He also teaches online. So our gender roles are switched, but it's still interesting, the instinctual pieces that you feel. That's on a side note. So I really want to echo Jess's advice about having that blocked out time. I've done it for a day. I've done it for even 4 hours. Like I like that shift from work-life balance to life juggling. There are going to be times when you're off balance. You're working more than playing. You're playing more than working. That's what I like about academia on my side, is that it's always shifting. It's never 8 to 5. I knew growing up that I couldn't do an 8 to 5 job, and for me, there was something that I said in my tasks. It was great for me, but acknowledging that yes, there's I'll say this is really a hard week to push through, ending that. But having that, even if it's 4 hours on Saturday or whatever day you want to pick, and you block it off and you say, I'm not cleaning the house, I'm not reading for school. Someone else gave me a tip, like getting their hair done. Until I need to get my hair done. But that was not self-care, that was maintenance. And that really was helpful for me. So like going to get my hair done, it's something I want to do for myself, but it's a maintenance thing. It's not going to get a massage. It's very different, right? Think about for yourself, what are those maintenance that you need to do, getting your oil changed, even getting your hair done, that's different from self-care, like I would say going out to dinner with your friends, but whatever you're doing in COVID, binge watching, whatever that is, I think there's a difference there. And if you're using one saying, oh, that's time, I'm going to do whatever, and it's more of a maintenance thing, you're not going to feel recharged. You need to think for yourself, what really do I enjoy that I can either do by myself or with family, whatever I choose, but what is different than work or keeping up or maintenance?
Thank you. Dr. Jordan, can you discuss some challenges maybe that you've seen students face in trying to maintain this type of work-life balance or self-care during their grad program?
Yeah, I see it a lot. I see that a lot of times students will take the opportunity towards the beginning of the semester and they will do really good on their shift will be more towards self-care and less towards maybe they don't have the deadlines. Then they get to the end and then they have like 3 or 4 weeks where they have to eat, breathe, and sleep, work, and then they get overwhelmed. And then they call me, they email me, I can't meet the deadline, I'm going to have a mental breakdown, like those types of things. So I think their intentions are good by taking advantage of those times. But most people need a deadline. Most people are procrastinators. I mean, that's just, I think, just sort of our nature. And if we can identify that, and some of us do that more than others. My mentor says she's a deadline junkie. It always cracks me up. So I use that she has to have that deadline. So just because somebody else isn't giving me a deadline, I need to give myself a deadline. I need to get that done here so I can juggle this thing. I like that idea of juggling because it is a juggling act. How can I space things out so I don't get to the last few weeks and I burn out? I see that a lot too, the burnout. So it sways from, taking time off because I'm burnt out and then they go back in. If you are burnout, I think it's important to talk. I think I'm burned out. We need to talk because you want to identify that and catch that early enough so that it doesn't impact your health, your physical health, your mental health, the health of your family, because people do burn out. And I think it's very realistic to talk about and to say there are options. There's lots of options. Everybody's not on the same track or timeline or path. And I encourage my students when I'm recognizing that they're about to hit a wall in lots of areas of their life, I will coach them to take a break. And sometimes they're like, oh, but I don't want to. And sometimes we have to step in and remove them from those things because they're in trouble and they don't realize that they're in trouble. And sometimes it in fact impacts their academic progress. And sometimes as clinicians, which mainly is our focus in this case, is it impacts their work with clients where they're affecting someone else because they can't take care of themselves. So sometimes we do step in, and that's sort of we want to prevent that, right? We want to get people to help them gauge where they are so that they don't have to get to that point where someone's having to step in. But talk to your advisor. It doesn't matter if it's your first semester, if you've been doing this for 3 years, at some point you're going to feel burned out, and it's important to talk about that. What can I do? Can I make some alterations and still go forward? Do I need to take a break? What are the warning signs? I think like Jess said, being aware of your own warning signs. When do you know? I had a day a couple weeks ago. I had some deadline. I can't remember now, but I had this deadline. Oh, it was for promotion. And so I was like dealing with the folio and it was driving me crazy. And I just was staying up late. And that's not, I'd rather get up early. And I noticed one day I was just sitting here at my desk and I was like, I don't feel good. Like I didn't feel like myself. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something like today. I have to do something different with my schedule. I have to reschedule, take a break, something, because I don't want to get sick, right? Because I knew like what those things are. So I think that's an important thing to recognize for yourself. What is your body telling you? What is your mental health telling you about when you need a break? I'm just sort of looking here in the chat too. I don't know if Jess wants to add to.
I think this next question here might be a perfect one for Jess. Somebody asked, has anyone gone through the process of buying a house while a graduate student?
I just privately messaged Paola and wrote her. I don't know if you want to unmute Paola or maybe join in the conversation. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. If you're asking like financial advice regarding taking on that responsibility as a graduate student, I think it depends if you're working full time. My husband and I together, we bought a condo my first year because we moved from New York to here. We bought a condo our first year, and recently we bought a home as well. But again, I'm in a very different situation where my husband is working full time and I'm working part time. So I think that really depends. So I'm not sure. I don't know if you're asking as well if there's like certain incentives for being like a graduate student and like certain laws that I'm not familiar with. So yeah, I wasn't completely sure what to. I don't know if you can add to that, Dr. Jordan.
I was going to address some of the other questions. Maybe she'll be able to join in and give us some more detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kristen asked about collaborating with other students. I've talked to our students about this. You have to be intentional. So those 10 minutes before and after class, you're just not going to have it way. However, if you reach out to your class or your cohort or however your program is structured and say, hey, can we organize 1 hour a week for us to just hang out and just to chat and get to know each other, either in a smaller group or in a larger group? You just have to be more intentional about that. So I would say that would be the best way to collaborate with students is to put it out there. Maybe you put it in the chat box in one of your classes and say, hey, is anybody willing to, to meet on the side to study or review or get to know each other or hang out or whatever it might be. It just takes a little bit more effort. And the other question from Jamie is about with a relationship with an advisor. Our program assigns them unless someone requests a specific person. If you get the option to choose your advisor or to change your advisor, I would get to know them, and they may or may not be a good fit. And if you're able to change and talk to other faculty and make that switch, it's going to be really important that you have an advisor that you can talk to. I always tell students, whoever you feel most comfortable with, that's who should be your advisor. And it may be different than somebody your research interest is with. You can have 2 people, that's fine. But I think bottom line is if you're struggling in any way, you need to feel like you can reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling. And I think in our profession, because we're therapists, we might be more inclined to do that. But I could see in other disciplines where that might be kind of a taboo or a strange thing to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling, like I'm burning out, or I need some help with what's going on in my personal life to balance school. And I know that the grad college is great for resources, and if there's you can reach out to me. I'm busy, but if you just need somebody to say, hey, I don't know where to start, help me find the right person to talk to, I can help there too. So I think that's the important thing, is to reach out to someone, and hopefully that's your advisor. Schedule a meeting with them. Say, can we meet for 15 minutes? I try to schedule my meetings again to try to get everybody in, so that some meetings are quick. Prospective students are probably 10 to 15 minute meetings. Other meetings, when there's other stuff going on with students, I schedule longer times. So if you can just reach out to them and say, hey, even in the next month, can we have a 15-minute chat? I just want to get to know you as my advisor better. If you give them like a broader amount of time, like we can do this in a month, they're more likely to say, oh, great, versus where most people have these deadlines. Can we meet this week? Oh, I can't meet this week. And then you feel discouraged. Oh, I don't want to ask them about meeting because they're busy, right? Well, we're always busy. But if you ask us for within the next month, we can probably find a time in our schedule in the next 3 weeks where we can meet or touch base, if it's not urgent, of course.
Yeah, if anyone is in a PhD program, I would second what Dr. Jordan was saying. For me, I know I wasn't interested in the professor route, so publishing isn't priority task of my co-curricular life, right? Like outside of the classroom. But I did start with my advisor. We did have the same research interests. However, then one course changed my whole dissertation perspective, focus rather. But I decided to stay with that person because, again, publishing and research wasn't a huge priority. But for me, having that relationship and that trust, because life was happening and is still happening a lot in my life, I needed that flexibility, that compassion, that adaptability, ability to adapt from my chair as well, my dissertation chair. But I just wanted to add to Kristen's question. That's something that even I'm struggling with, as staying connected virtually. I could only imagine you all in your first year, your first month, right? But being that person to get the conversation started and just break the ice, I think we're all feeling that way, and we're all longing for that connectivity. So even if we want to maybe just send it, or we feel more comfortable sending it in the chat, we don't know who will then, reach out and say, yeah, I'd be willing to do a virtual, get to know each other for an hour on Sunday, right? Breaking that ice, but yeah.
Another idea is that, if your class goes from, let's say, 1 to 3:50, you might ask the professor, hey, if we end at 3:45, I always get that. So 3:45 here, and it was 3:50 at Texas Tech. If we get out at 3:45, can you leave the WebEx up, or the whatever you're using, can you leave it up for let us just talk after class? So I'm sure that they won't mind unless they have a meeting immediately following, and because it doesn't end on the hour, they probably have that 15 minutes where they're not using Zoom or whatever it might be, and just say, hey, can you just leave it up for us to chat for a few minutes after class to ask questions for each other? Hopefully that won't be a problem, and you can use that time to sort of do that chat like while you're having a break or whatever that you normally would have face to face.
Do y'all have like any ideas, or what have you seen in your classrooms this semester? You're really more so, you all like are the pioneers when it comes to like virtually meeting, right? More so than us. We're taking our existing relationships now online, whereas y'all are creating these new relationships. So any advice, or anyone else want to share what you've seen in your classrooms so far?
I was curious. I don't have any ideas yet because I haven't started that relationship, and it just seems kind of awkward starting it virtually. And then I'm not sure. I guess the first meeting would be just an introduction, which would be appropriate. But from an advisor standpoint, are there different things that they would help us with or not help us with? I'm not sure what the role is other than academic, because Dr. Jordan, it sounds like you're also speaking about other issues that are non-academic. So I'm not
not to cut you off, but just for the sake of time. So I think an email to your advisor saying, hi, I'm Jamie. You're my advisor. Could we schedule a 10 to 15 minute virtual meeting for me to get to know you a little bit in this program, because I'm new, the role of the advisor. The role of the advisor can be a slightly different from program to program, but it will be your main contact. So I would say it would be very appropriate to schedule a brief get to know you meeting, and you can find out more about that particular advisor, what are your expectations of me as a first year student? What do I need to know in terms of your role that I need to? So just asking roles and expectations. And hi, my name's Jamie, and I wanted you to put a face with a name. I think that would be great. I would encourage you to do that.
Thank you. We had another question kind of related to the advisor. When should students start thinking about and speaking to faculty members when thinking about creating their student committees? Like, when is the appropriate time to do that?
I think it could vary some by discipline. Some students are very eager in their first semester. They want to chat and get that set up. I think that's great. If that's part of your planning and being organized and knowing, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is who I'm going to work with, I think that's great. It's not the same for everyone. What I would advise against is waiting too late. I think it's better to reach out sooner than later, because advisors fill up. And sometimes, at least in some programs, advisors might say, I'm full right now, I can't take anybody. And if that's the person you've been hoping to work with, then that can sometimes happen. So I would reach out sooner than later. We do this for our state interns that graduate. We only have so many slots of people we can. I just got an email today from a person. Hey, it's 4 months before graduation. I know it's early, but I want to ask you ahead of time if you can save a spot for me. I think that would be great. That way, it'd be better to plan early than at least because once they say yes, unless something happens major, you've got that verbal agreement from them, and you can start to plan things.
Yeah, from the PhD perspective, if you already have a chair, or if you want a co-chair, that's fine. But I would wait a little bit on like your remaining committee members, especially your outside of department or outside of your college one, because that depends on what your cognate is. So your outside area focus in your dissertation. So that's going to be more in your like elective courses to see who really can fill in bald spots of your research that maybe your dissertation chair, your head chair, that isn't their like strong suit, right? and to have like a well-rounded committee as well, right? Not that they're all focused on like the same area. I think like there's a workshop on like thesis and and how to select committee, but one thing that I always heard was like having a methodologist as one of your committee members as well. But that would be then more to unpack that specific workshop. So check out our calendar.
I would echo what Jess said, just to add to that. You're getting your chair nailed down is most important because they fill up quickly, number one. Number two, you're right. You want to wait to your topic area. You want to ask your chair, who should I put on my committee, right? Because they know who works.
You don't want
professionally. Yeah, some of them are very blunt. Why?
You don't want your defense to turn into like a debate.
No, the student wanted to chair, and she told me who she wanted on her. This was not here on her committee, and I said, "Well, I very, this person's really busy. I've heard it was Adam." And I didn't want to had seen advised her, and it's because it's such a. I would ask your chair.
Thank you. We're losing you a little bit, Dr. Jordan. All right, so we have about 3 to 4 minutes left of the workshop. I'm just going to open it up to Jessica and Dr. Jordan for any closing remarks or any last pieces of advice for our participants before we wrap up the workshop.
I'm just putting my chat or my email in the chat if there's anything that I can do to be helpful. But hang in there. It's just recognizing it's hard. This is grad school. It's supposed to be hard. You have another unique situation with COVID, but I think you can see it as an advantage as well. I think you look at the time at home, the work-life balance, this juggling, I think you can find, I have to look at, I'm seeing my kids more now, even if it's while I'm going to the bathroom, walking by them when I go to the bathroom, at least I see them more. So I think don't get too bogged down about the challenge of COVID. Just realize, this is a shift, and how can it benefit me, and what are some new hurdles that I have to navigate?
My last advice wrapping up would be, one, you're in graduate school already, so you wouldn't have been admitted into your program if you could not make it to the finish line. Programs and the graduate college would admit students that they don't believe can be successful to the end. That's why they have requirements, right? Admissions requirements. So you can complete it. That's why you were admitted. And number two, I said I was going to say this at least one more time, right? Grant yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. This is hard. And yeah, be kind to yourself. Be adaptable. Be flexible. Life will continue to happen. And this is where you're meant to be. That's what.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your time and expertise with us today. And thank you to all of our participants for joining us. Welcome to graduate school. We're here for you. If you ever need anything, you can reach out to the graduate college, and we can find the right person to help you with whatever you might need. We'll be posting this workshop on the Grad College YouTube channel within a couple of weeks for your reference. But that's all we have for you today. Hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you at all of our other workshops. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Have a great semester.